would just like to give you an update on what's happening in the Public Education Appropriations Committee. Right now we're going through the budget. We're reviewing each of the line items that were cut last week. I believe that the cuts were much greater than necessary. I think most of you understand that the cuts were 11.2% rather than 7%, and that not only was funding taken out of the flexible allocation line item, which provides funding for the WPU and Social Security and retirement benefits. There was some smoke and mirrors going on there, where it was said that this funding, some of this funding was being moved above the line to fund growth, where in fact student growth was not funded at all. And in fact, $291 per student has been cut out of the WPU. So not only have we not funded growth, we have actually cut the money per pupil going out to the districts. And that is before we even get to all of the line items. The K-3 Reading Initiative money was cut. The USDB is being considered by the State Board of Education as being cut. We discussed that today. Adult education was already cut. We're looking at each of these line items, and we're going to be prioritizing which ones of those we want to fund or refund, where we want to put the money back in. But the State Department of Ed, or the State Board of Education, has been asked to give recommendations to the committee as how they would cut certain amounts of money. And so some of those recommendations have been, to cut USDB, the regional service centers. Anyway, it's pretty drastic what we're looking at right now. A lot of concerns out there among education. We really should have the very best schools in the nation. Our schools should be number one. Our children deserve a top quality education. And even in hard economic times, these students should be our highest priority. We should get them the funding that they need. And we should not be making these types of cuts. So anyway, that's what I'm working on right now. That's my highest priority, is to make sure that we get the funding into our schools that we need.
Does anyone have any questions of Senator Morgan?
Okay, so you may have to dumb this down completely, because the main budget process I get lost on when you talk about the WPU. It seemed like they've handed out the budget to everyone, the big long sheet, and it said WPU was staying the same across the board. But you're saying there's a cut. So is it just cut in different services below that we're not seeing that is being taken away?
Well, it is a complicated budget. It's very complicated. And above the line, you have the WPU, the weighted pupil unit. You have the funding going out to the schools that way. There is a line item that is below the line that we have always funded, and it's called the flexible allocation line item. And it used to be called the Social Security and Retirement line item. And I think the amount of that line item was something like $216 million. But that money has always gone out to the schools along with the money above the line. And it's been used for WPU. And so it's all been added together. So if you take away $141 million out of that line item, which was done last week, it was cut by $141 million, and then $76 million of that one line item was put above the line. But that's money that the schools have already been receiving in the past. And so they are saying that they are using that money for growth money, to fund the growth, where really the cut is $291 per student, because you cut $141 million that was going to WPU above the line. Actually, that flexible allocation line item should have been above the line all along, but it wasn't. It was down below. And so it really is smoke and mirrors here. We have really cut the WPU by $291 per student.